Thursday was like any other day, calm and serene. The night unfolded quietly, with the usual hum of life continuing in the background. I had just wrapped up a long day of work, looking forward to a peaceful evening at home. My wife, Susan, was lost in her favorite show downstairs, while our 16-year-old daughter, Emily, was tucked away in her room chatting away on the phone, just as most teenagers do. As I passed by Emily's door on my way to bed, I overheard something that froze me in my tracks. It was a conversation that shattered everything I thought I knew. Emily so casually mentioned, "Yes, my mom was with him again last weekend." Her voice was light, almost amused, as if what she was saying was completely normal. My heart stopped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was she talking about Susan? Was my wife having an affair? The words hung in the air and I stood there, unable to move. Emily continued, "She's been seeing him for a while now. Doesn't even try to hide it anymore." The casual nature of the conversation made my stomach churn. My mind raced as I tried to process the impossible reality. Susan, the woman I had shared my life with, was having an affair, and worse, Emily knew about it. Not only did she know, but she was helping her mother hide it. A wave of nausea hit me as I tried to stay calm. My heart was pounding, my thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion, anger, and disbelief. I couldn't confront her yet, not without proof. I needed to see for myself, gather evidence. Confronting her in the heat of the moment would only give her a chance to deny everything or twist the truth in her favor. So, I went downstairs, sat on the couch, and tried to act normal as Susan continued watching her show, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing inside me. That night, as I lay in bed next to her, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, her soft breathing beside me, replaying Emily's words in my head over and over. Our life together, the memories, the love, the years we had spent building our family, felt like an elaborate lie. My mind raced and I couldn't help but wonder, how long had this been going on? How many nights had Susan come home late, pretending everything was fine, while she was with someone else? I spent the next few days observing them both, pretending that nothing had changed, but inside I was a storm. I started gathering evidence, quietly and methodically. While Susan was asleep, I scoured her phone, and what I found was undeniable. Texts from someone named Deej filled with sweet messages, plans for secret meetings, and declarations of love, each one confirming my worst fear. One night, I found a burner phone hidden in her office drawer, and as I unlocked it, I discovered a treasure trove of texts. She had been living a completely separate life, and Emily had been helping her cover it up. My anger burned hotter, but I kept my composure. This wasn't about confronting her right away. I wasn't going to fight for her or beg her to explain. I would take control in the only way I could. I began making preparations in secret. I closed joint accounts, transferred money, and started planning my escape. I wasn't just leaving, I was disappearing without a trace. Each night after they went to bed, I quietly packed my things, ensuring I left no evidence behind. I found a small town, a place where no one knew my name, where I could rebuild my life. The day came when I walked out the door. No goodbye, no explanation. I left behind only a few personal items, things that meant something to me but nothing that Susan would ever miss. I wanted her to feel my absence, to know what it was like to lose something she thought would always be there. As I drove away, I felt an odd sense of peace. For the first time in months, I wasn't consumed by anger or betrayal. I was free. In my new town, I kept to myself. I rented a small flat with a view of the sea and immersed myself in the quiet life. I spent my days exploring, meeting new people who didn't know my story, and for the first time, I felt like I could breathe without the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I often thought about Susan and Emily. I wondered how they were coping with my disappearance, how they were processing the fact that everything they knew had been torn apart. Would Susan finally realize the consequences of her actions? Would Emily ever forgive her? 3 years passed and I had fully embraced my new life. I had found peace, and the wounds of betrayal, though still present, had healed with time. One afternoon, while enjoying a quiet moment at a cafe, I heard a familiar voice call my name. It was Dan, an old acquaintance from my past. He stared at me, stunned, as if he couldn't believe his eyes. "Is it really you?" he asked. "Yes, it's me," I replied, a wave of nostalgia washing over me. Dan sat down across from me, and after a few moments he spoke in a low voice. "Everyone thought you just disappeared. No one knew where you went." "I needed a fresh start," I replied softly, unsure how much I should reveal. Dan leaned in, his expression serious. "Man, you missed a lot. After you left, people started suspecting something about Susan. At first, they were sympathetic, but the truth eventually came out. Susan's affair was exposed. All those lavish dinners, the secret trips, it all added up. Her reputation? Gone. Her friends? Gone. Even her family couldn't look at her the same way. As for Emily, Dan told me, she cut ties with her mother after graduation. She blamed Susan entirely for what happened. Hearing this brought a strange sense of closure. Susan had paid the price for her lies, and Emily, despite everything, had stood by what was right. It was bittersweet, but it gave me peace to know that the truth had finally come to light. That evening, as I sat on the beach watching the waves crash against the shore, I realized something important. I hadn't found freedom through revenge but through healing. I had rebuilt my life, and the pain of the past was finally beginning to fade. In the years that followed, I met Claire. She was kind, understanding, and patient. Slowly, I shared my past with her, and she offered me support without judgment. For the first time in a long time, I felt hope. As I sat on the beach one evening, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I reflected on everything that had brought me to this point. From heartbreak to healing, I had emerged stronger. The people who had once defined my pain were now distant memories. I had found peace not by seeking revenge but by letting go and rebuilding my life. And for the first time in years, I felt free.